just it didn't matter. I was a scorer, and I would love to go one-on-one. On the teams that I played, initially we had Tyrone Nesby, Keon Clark were probably the top two players because they went on and did big things. But Kevin Simmons was also a great player. Brian Keefe, who's an NBA coach right now. Those two guys transferred from UC Irvine. But we had a lot of talent on that team. But I think that initial team that I played on, Tyrone Nesby and Keon Clark were the top two guys that went and did big things in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then after that, Sean Marion came in, and Sean, the Matrix, he was with us
did
for
he
1
have a
year.
career? Is he a teacher too, or?
No, he's not a teacher. He's actually an NBA champion, and he's done really well. And now he's like an NBA ambassador, traveling the world and doing some wonderful things. So played with him as well.
You still keep in contact with any of these guys?
You know what? Just do social media.
Oh, okay.
Just do social media. I saw Marcus Banks the other day. I actually didn't play with him, but I saw him.
I don't think Marcus plays anymore.
He's working. No, he doesn't play anymore. He's done.
He's a little bit close. He's invested, well invested in the dad bod.
Yeah, he's doing some stuff over at Lifetime. That's where I see him. Lifetime up in Summerlin. And when I saw him recently, I told him that he was one of the. Although we didn't play together, we played in the summer together. Because in the summer, that's where we had some really great, just pick up battles. And I remember him when he was just kind of transitioning over from the junior college. He went from junior college to UNLV. But I remember trying to dribble past him. And I told him that he was probably one of the toughest players that, just like, man, this guy's quick and strong, and I'm having a hard time getting past him. And he's guarding me at half court. So let me pass the ball. Let me pass the ball, and then what I did, then I tried to take him down low because I'm taller than him, and I could shoot over him. But I remember him being one of the toughest players that I've ever played against to, just try to get by and off the dribble. So yeah, that's my full-on story, man, or at least part of it. So with what I'm doing right now at the Public Ed Foundation, we have a program. The Public Ed Foundation is all about making education better in Southern Nevada. So there's a lot of programs that they have. They have a teacher leadership program where a lot of teachers go in and they get trained by some of the brightest minds in the world because we bring them in from all over the world and they get really good training.
I never knew that. I just every news article I read about the school district is
negative.
Yeah, we're the worst ever. The teachers are the crap.
More horrible.
So, this is the first time I've ever heard this, and I know Donovan, but we talk about some other things. But I never
bring some positivity to it, man.
Well, there has to be that.
I've been in the district for many years, and I'm actually getting to see a lot more. Being able to go into different schools and see what they're doing. But at the Public Ed Foundation, we also have a administrative leadership program where we do the same thing. We bring in the brightest minds in the world and help train the leaders at schools. We have a teacher exchange where teachers come and they come and we will get donated items from hotels or different places, and then we give them we have like a credit, and then they're able to come and shop in our store, which is pretty cool. We have an arts program where Green Valley came and they had an exhibit the other day, and their students and their families were able to come.
So why
do some art.
Why are we not hearing about this?
You got to keep your ear to the street, Eric. I don't know what streets you're keeping your ear to, man, but it's out there. It's out there.
Homeless guys owns.
No, I mean this. I know that good publicity is not like News 5, headlines, but so I just feel like as a parent, I'm not getting this message. That's not the message.
No.
We're where I live, which is in Henderson. There's more charter schools in Henderson as a clump together than I think anywhere else in the valley. And part of that is, which is ironic, because the top elementary schools in the valley are all in Henderson. Like, there's only like 2 elementary schools that aren't like 4-star and above.
Yeah.
Which, like, per capita, if you look at it, it's like, well, if I want my kid to have the best elementary school experience, you would send them to a school in Henderson. And it's just ironic that we have, off of Lake Mead and Boulder Highway, within 2 miles, you have 4 charter schools and 1 private school, like a private LMCA is a private charter hybrid. And so I find it interesting that, like, the most news we get is Vegas is on the bottom of the bucket. I don't want my kids going to school here, when everything you're telling about, this is what actually builds up the program, right? You talked about you a little bit as being a basketball player and about being on a team. You're like, hey, in the summer ball, man, we could roll. You know, it's the and one mixtape in the summer, right? And then, but come fall, when you got to play for a scholarship, and you're playing on a team with a coach, you know, the messages are all different.
Yeah.
And I think that correlates to what's going on right now, whereas you're like, hey, we've got these great programs going on, and reason why I want to have Donovan is talk about, like, so Donovan used to be licensed with me. I'm a real estate broker by trade, and like you said, he used to do insurance. He's done these different avenues, and a lot of times when you're going to college anyways as a regular person, you're like, I have no idea what I'm going to do in life anyways, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's even personified when you're a scholarship player, because now everyone kind of looks up to you, right? You've got all the resources of the university, and hopefully the university's going, you know what? You know, we brought this kid in, we gave him a scholarship, and something great became of it. When I was telling Adam about, hey, I really want to get Donovan in, Donovan's got a great story, is I would take it back to that moment. This is really personal, Donovan, but how did you know that your mom was murdered?
Oh, well, I found her.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 10 years old, I went to, my mother put me to bed. It was a Wednesday night. I've actually been digging into this lately and been sharing it with people, because I woke up one day and, I'm 42 now, but I woke up one day and thinking, man, this happened in 1987. I wonder if some of these people are out. And I had 2 names in mind, so I have a story in my 9-10-year-old mind of what happened.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that to be fact. So I actually reached out to the Nassau County District Attorney's Office, and they couldn't find anything.
Wow. Okay.
At all.
That's not promising.
And I called my godmother. I'm like, where's that house again? And it was actually in Queens. So it was in Rosedale, Queens. So
Okay.
as soon as I called Queens and I gave them the information, they were able to find it. And so what happened was that night I was put to bed, and I'm a 9-year-old. I didn't want to go to bed. My mom let me sleep in the guest room that night, and the doorbell rang. And that was pretty much the last interaction I had with my mom. I actually went to the guest room, I fell asleep, and I woke up the next morning, and her friend were murdered. I called the police. Police told me to hide. They asked if anyone was still in the house, if I heard any noises. I said no, and then they picked me up, pretty much. And that was really the reason that, because the people who did it, I knew who they were, and to protect me, my family thought it'd be a good idea to move out to California.
Yeah.
That was the primary reason that other than, I visited the year before, and I was like, man, it was like a paradise out there compared to New York City. But for safety reasons, they thought it'd be a good idea to move me. So that's why I ended up in California.
How do you think your childhood affected you now as a dad?
Oh man, it affected me big time. It's still affecting me because the other day, someone this actually happened a couple nights ago. Did I tell you about this?
No.
So someone threw a boulder through my window.
You were just starting to tell us
boulder through my window a couple nights ago. This boulder is probably 20, 30 pounds.
Wow.
And I
That's
think,
a lot of commitment.
I have a,
Right.
I know. So my house backs up to a park,
Yeah.
and the park is elevated. So, it's elevated and my house is a little bit lower. So it's like, it takes a heave to really, get it in there. But the
Yeah.
park is dark at night. So I'm talking about security systems and ring and all that kind of stuff. And I'm in the market for a security system. But that incident, I think, when I was a kid, impacted my life all the way up until this point. And I've reached a turning point, I think. Because ever since I was 10, I've been really hands-off with armed, just with guns.
Yeah.
And I wanted nothing to do with guns at all. Until now. Because I've come to that realization with my wife and my kids. I'm like, man, what if, what if that was just the beginning? They broke the window and then a bunch of people came in,
Right.
or, just for protection of my family. I think it's in my best interest to have a weapon in the home, So I'm in the market for that. I'm in the market for a security device. But when I was a kid, I made a decision because my upbringing, I'd seen, drugs and certain things.
Yeah.
And guns, and I decided that I want nothing to do with those things, because those things in my mind caused or were part of the death of my mom.
Yeah.
So I really, really stayed away. But now I feel like I have no choice but to, in order to just protect my home and protect my space, get comfortable with using a firearm and get the proper training, and so that I can protect my family.
And how do you think, and I think I do this too. So, I didn't have a fatherly role in my life when I was a kid. And I think now as a dad, I'm trying to fill that dad role that I didn't have as a kid. Do you feel like, I'm just guessing at that, I'm no psychologist, but I try to be the best dad that I could be, that dad in my head. Like you talked about, hey, I don't remember the exact events, maybe they went down, and I'm looking back and going, I actually had a lot of support now. As an adult, you understand things differently.
Yeah.
And growing up, I had my uncles help me with Pinewood Derby cars. I had my uncles help me with fixing cars. I had my neighbor down the street teach me how to be a mechanic. And so I had this different support system of fathers, really, right? And I wonder, I've gotten the opportunity through my children of coaching a lot of teams. And I love it. I'm a little overly passionate. So I teach morning seminary, and so some of the kids that I've coached against are now in that class.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they bring it up all the time. They're like, "Oh, Eric," they go, "Brother Humes, hey, we know you get kind of upset on the sidelines." I'm like, "That's not upset. That's passion." And I find myself now like little adjustments in life. We played a volleyball game, and the referee, who actually is in charge of the league, made bad calls left and right. And I'm like, I said, you know what? That's not going to affect me. It's all about the kids. My kids have a great time. But just so you know, that was a wrong call. That was a wrong call. That was a wrong call. And I said, we're still friends.
Right.
And I'm not gonna beat you up on it to more than 5 times tonight.
I'm sure you were this calm when you said that too.
I was. It was. I've turned a little bit.
Right.
And so I wonder how much each of us are trying to either that was my thought when you talked about, hey, these were the recollections I had in my mind, and now you went back and you looked at the police report and what really happened.
Yeah. That police report. So my dream was that they were gonna get out and come for me. Because I was part of that. I was in the house. I knew who they were and all that kind of stuff. And what I learned when I did some digging, that it wasn't 2 guys, it was 4 guys. I learned all their names. And I learned that 3 of them got 15 to life and are actually out. They were all released to immigration though, and so deported.
Yeah.
And then I learned that 1 was still in, and he's not up for parole until like 2030 something. And I anticipate that he was the one that actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
So just learning that, learning their names, learning their birthdays, learning just information about them was, I think it was good for me. My wife was telling me, it was like, man, you need to, maybe you should think about doing some counseling to kind of help you work through this part. I'm like, I'm good, honey. I've been dealing with this for a long time, and I'm totally comfortable speaking about it and sharing it with people. I share it with whoever wants to listen.
I think it empowers people. I think like it inspires me. Just I did share a little bit of your story with Adam before you coming on today, and like just to give him a little like texture. And now to hear this, that you actually, because I think for so long in society, like, hey, something bad happened, and we all just we just keep quiet about it, right? Yeah. And it ends up festering. Yeah. Like for me, not having a dad figure growing up, like I always felt like a little second-class citizen, beyond the fact that I literally am a redheaded stepchild. Okay. And so, but I carried on. I equate it to like, when they talk about in literature about, having the scarlet letter, like I carried that around for so many years. I was so embarrassed. Yeah, I have no idea who my dad is. Yeah, but I'm so grateful that my mom decided to, keep me, and, my mom hid her pregnancy with me, actually up until a week before I was born. My mom just piled on the winter clothes. I'm born in December. If everyone wants to send us a little birthday gift, I celebrate year round. And then my family would tell me stories about that. Like, oh yeah, we had no idea your mom was pregnant until like you popped out.
Wow.
And, most people are like, Eric, you got thick skin. I got thick skin because I've been a redheaded stepchild my whole life. And so people calling me names and whatnot, I grew up with that in my house.
Yeah.
So having that information, you think that was a healing, part of the healing process for you and Eric, like knowing more about your, let's say, genealogy, your history, your personal history.
Yeah.
Did that help the healing process?
I think so, because it's just, it's like, what I was told, and now I just know the facts. So I just feel like just more knowledgeable about my own personal, situation. So for me it was good, and I'm actually going to continue to communicate with them, because my grandmother was actually the one that would communicate and get updates and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take over that role.
But what do you mean by communicate with them? Like
so
the actual
like when they would when they would come
the,
up for parole,
oh,
like the district attorneys and all the law enforcement folks that work the case and all that, they would communicate and give my grandmother updates.
Would you ever try to?
Absolutely, I already know where you're going. Well, no, not.
No. Like, I don't know. I mean, I've never been in a situation like that, so I'm just speaking out, outside the bounds. But to communicate with the person, that person in prison, would you ever, or would that be too much?
Right now, I think that'd be too much. It'd be too much for me. I kind of was disappointed to hear that 3 of them only got 1. They each got 15 to life sentences.
Less.
Yeah.
And no, they all did actually more than 15 years. Okay. They did more than 15 years, but I was disappointed with their sentencing. So from the case perspective, I'm interested, like, in making sure that the gentleman that's in there now, doesn't get out, or doesn't have doesn't have that same opportunity that the others did. But yeah, as far as like having a conversation out that, I don't think I could do that.
I don't think I could either.
Not right. I have a lot of forgiveness in my heart, and I've forgiven, a lot of people, with certain things, and even my, have I told you that I've reconnected with my father?
No.
So I have reconnected with my father, and So the last time I saw him, you know, it was around when we buried my mom, and I reconnected back with him probably when I was like 39. And so I now have a relationship with him. So that was a
No, I
big.
think we did talk about that because I told you as well, like I've reconnected with, I found out who my biological dad was, and I reached out to, and so now I'm the in one family I'm the youngest family. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby of the family, and another family I'm the oldest.
Right.
And so kind of I feel like I'm all three in one respect where I'm.
How did you reconnect?
It was a chance. It was a chance phone call. I was in Dallas, and with a little bit of like literally from online portals and stuff, said, hey, if this is true, you know, then this guy might be your dad. And I had called some numbers over the years, but no one ever picked up. And I was in Dallas for a real estate conference, and I said, you know, while I'm here, I'm just gonna Google a phone number. So I Googled first phone number, it doesn't even go through. Second phone number ends up being my would-be sister-in-law, and she's like, I'm like, hey, I think I may be Jim or JB's son. She's like, I know you're not Jim's because Jim is my husband. And we're like, yeah, we've had a lot of, yeah, your dad got around quite well. He was a friend of the lady folk. And we always imagine, and before my dad passed away, like 2 months before my dad passed away, I almost got on a flight to Dallas to just knock his door. Like I literally had the ticket in checkout. It was I remember it was like 11:30 at night. I just told Sarah, I'm like, hey, I think I'm just gonna go to Dallas tomorrow and just knock his door. I just have a feeling. My mom had already passed away by then, and even after my mom's death, she didn't leave me a lot of clues. And I think, you know, you talk about the trauma for how you dealt with the death of your mom. My mom buried a lot of stuff, and I think she was embarrassed on how everything went down. They didn't really have a relationship. It wasn't like, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, and I was born in the early 70s, right? I'm almost as young as Donovan. And so, you know, I think my mom carried around her own set of scarlet letters. And I think part of that, she's like, you know, she left me one name, and it wasn't even his name, but it was the right last name. And luckily, there's not a lot of them. And then, so I was in Dallas, called my would-be sister-in-law, said, hey, well, I'd like to meet up with you guys. I can go wherever you are in Texas. Like, I'll stop what I'm doing. And she's like, well, let's not meet up. We can't meet like today, but we'll meet up, you know, tomorrow night for dinner. I said, okay, great. Of course, I got there. We got there like hours early. I was there with my business partner, Brad, and my sister-in-law, Laura. And we showed up at Chili's, and I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'2", you know, 225 right now for those at home.
Whoa. There's no reason to lie.
And my brother Jim, you know, we're sitting at a table, and we're there like a half hour early, right? I'm just like, and I have no idea what he looks like, by the way. So, but I'm pretty sure like, hey, I'll know it when I see it. This guy walks into the door. He's like 6'6", 6'7", 280, and 280 strong. Like 280 still will take a room out, right?
Nice.
And he waves at me. And so on Monday, actually, I had reached out through Facebook to his daughter, just on a whim. I'm like, hey, just so you know, can you have your dad call me? No one called me. What happened was my would-be niece calls her mom and says, dude, this old guy's like stalking me on Facebook. And he sent me this message. Tuesday, I call, talk to Kathy, and Kathy's like, yeah, totally, we'll meet up with you. And they showed up with just a big manila envelope of pictures. And that's when I got rid of my Rogaine, because I figured out that I looked just like my biological dad.
Wow.
like down to like even the part in my hair right here.
Fascinating.
This right here is all about my dad. And it was a crazy experience because we met that night and we're talking, and I'm a pretty talkative person, but Brad and Laura will tell you, they're like, we've never heard Eric so quiet. And I said, well, for me, it's a crazy experience. Like, I never thought in my lifetime, because about every decade, I'd start looking again and just do everything about just short of hiring a private investigator to find this guy.
Wow.
And because everyone's like, well, why don't you find him? Why don't you find him? I'm like, well, if it was that easy, I would have found him.
For sure.
He didn't go by his name. He went by a pseudo name his whole life. His dad went by a pseudo name. And so my grandpa and my great grandpa and my dad all went by pseudo names. They didn't go by their real names. And then they were from rural parts of Montana and Idaho, so it's not like they're from big cities. And it was great. I've met like other parts of the family, and I met other friends of my dad, but it was a surreal moment for me in the fact that I never thought that day would come. It was a surreal moment for my brother Jim, because he had been praying, and he's Christian, and he'd been praying. He had two full sisters, and they both had passed. His sister, my half sister, was murdered when she was 20, and then his other sister, they're both older than him, and his other sister had passed away like almost 10 years ago from a heart attack. And he's like, get your heart checked out. Hearts don't run well in the family. And so he had been praying. He's like, he just felt like he had no family left, and literally like 48 hours we're sitting at Chili's. And he's like, and looking at the pictures of my dad, and you look at me, and it's like looking in the mirror.
Wow.
Except for my dad was stronger across the chest. He was a professional steer wrestler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
So you're seeing the potential's there.
the potential is always there. So now I'm trying to get my kids. I'm like, hey,
Come
maybe,
on, let's
hey,
step
maybe
it
we
up.
need to put some boots on. You know.
Genes, you got some genes there.
And but yeah, that's a little bit of my story, like in connecting, and I think that makes me, and that's what I was leading Donovan down. Is like, so Donovan coaches tennis. What else have you coached? What else have your kids participated in?
Oh man, so I have two older boys that are in college right now, and I coach them in basketball, and they've tried everything: fencing, soccer, flag football, and I've helped out in as much as I possibly could with all those things, and obviously basketball was my passion. With the older boys, and so I would try to encourage them to, hey, it's simple to be good. In my mind, it's simple to be good. If you have some good athletic ability, you put yourself on a program or a plan where you're working out, a couple, hours a day, and over time you're going to get really good. But my older boys, they didn't want to stick with that plan. They had their own plan, so. I encouraged them, and I tried to do, I tried to work out with them and be there, but they just weren't into it, in that way. So now with my younger boys, I'm trying something a little new. I initially really involved with tennis and everything. My work right now, it's kind of taken me away. I'm not able to go to practices as much, but for years, my Landon is, he'll be 8 this year. So we started him in tennis 4 years. He was
Really?
4 years
'Cause
old.
it feels like it's been 7 years. It feels like
He'll be 8 in
as soon
November.
as he could hold a racket.
Yeah, he'll be 8. So he started with tennis at 4. And yes, really involved for 4 years with tennis, doing workouts with him, all that. But what I've noticed is the more I back off, the more he tends to want to get more engaged. So I've been backing off a little bit. No, we just tried some different things. We tried soccer, and you know, we fell into a really neat program. Tennis kids, they work out of Fez Middle School. You know, and you know, initially I would just go and help. You know, just pick up balls on the side, and then the guy. Next thing I know, he's sending me to a certification to get USTA certified to start coaching. You know, so then I coached for, you know, I helped out not just with with Landon, but with the other kids as well, and I still do when I have time. You know, so I'm still very much involved. But it was you know, a sport that he just liked, but I think as a family we decided to keep him going with it. You know, and I was ready to like really go and really try to make him, you know, this great tennis pro. But we're kind of keeping it on a participation level, you know, so just expose them to different
I love
things.
hearing that, by the way,
And
because
just,
I've experienced that with Donovan myself. That sounds like someday, like I had this one kid show up, and I could just imagine Donovan's eyes getting really big. Donovan, I don't remember that sales meeting when I came in and introduced you, and I was all giddy, and I was like, Donovan's on my
oh
team!
my goodness.
I still get excited about it. And Donovan's like, Eric, maybe we want to take it down by about 3 notches.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 3 notches? I said, Donovan, you just give me the green light, dude. I'm gonna be pouring fuel on this fire. And Donovan's like, let's ease into it. Let's ease into it. I'm like, ease into it? No. This is all. And I think as parents, we do the same thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh man, if my son can throw a ball, I might want to. He might be the next, you know, major league. He might.
Right.
Who was the pitcher who saved last night for Astros?
I don't even know.
Oh, that was phenomenal.
I didn't even know.
3 on, 2 outs. It was a full count, and he puts it down the pipe, strikes him out. It was phenomenal. I know for the Yankee fans, they felt the fiery darts of
I got so busy.
of loss
I can't
last
believe I
night,
watched
but
the game.
I was watching that and the VJK game. It was great. And Sarah's like, "Oh, you got to keep up for sports for the podcast." For the podcast.
So you always let your kids choose.
Yes, yeah, I let them choose, but I present different opportunities to them.
Yeah.
So Landon is actually very busy. He's also taking piano lessons. We have him in a program called Red Rover after school where he does a lot of different running activities. We have him in Beam where he gets to learn about finances and money. In the past, we've had him take Spanish.
Is this our school district you're talking about?
This is the
do you guys
great
live in some
Clark
other?
County School District, man.
Some
Yes. So these are all programs that they work through the school district, and they're like after school
Yeah.
programs. So he'll stay after for 45, 50 minutes and participate in the program. We did start with piano through the school district partnered program, and then we switched over and started getting him individual lessons.
Nice.
So he also does martial arts, which
I think it's healthy to get kids in as much as they possibly can.
Mhm.
That was always my rule in our home is I don't care what you do, you got to do something.
Yeah.
And you got to stay busy. You got to get out there, and whatever they get into. My passion's always been baseball, and I've pushed my kids towards that. And
Really?
then, yeah, you didn't notice that?
You didn't watch the game last night. I thought maybe you'd lost it.
I'm chasing kids
He's
stuff around.
wearing a baseball shirt and
Yeah.
hat.
But
Don't get him
But that's
started.
always-
Everything for him is a baseball analogy. So he's pretty narrowed like that.
well, back to what you were saying is I had the same experience. For the longest time, I was really involved in helping the kids, coaching,
Yeah.
getting them involved. And one day, my son, Ryder,
I thought he was going pro.
he was not hitting well this whole season. He was struggling the whole time. And he was working hard. He couldn't understand why he couldn't click it in the games. And I kept telling him, man, even professionals get through droughts and slumps and stuff. Finally, he came to me, he goes, Dad, I figured out what it was. I said, what? He goes, stop cheering for me. He goes, I can hear you in the stands, and it's messing me up. So I start backing off.
Yeah.
So at the parks,
Yeah.
there's the bleachers. Every park's almost the same. I'm behind the bleachers, standing up about 10 feet away. And my son will get up to bat, and he'll step into the box. And other parents are like, hey, your son's up to bat. Now, mind you, he's 9, 10 at the time. And I'm like, that's fine. And I kept my mouth shut. And it pulled him right out of the slump.
That's so hard.
There was something about trying to maybe please me or whatever it was, but my voice was throwing them all off. So every time he heard me, come on, get in there, barking and yelling the way that I do, and you guys can understand, I get excited.
Yeah.
And he says that it was really messing with him. The other coaches, they can yell all they want, and he's fine, and he can process that. But my voice, he can really pick that out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it made a difference.
Yeah, so I try to, one of my new strategies is to, not that I would be loud and I always look at the parents who are loud and just kind of just observe,
Yeah.
not saying that you're loud. I'm like,
No,
all right,
no,
what's going on
sometimes
over
it
here?
happens.
I like to watch, but
I just worry that people don't hear my voice. So
Right.
I boost it up a little bit. And my voice naturally
I don't know if that's
carries.
a worry.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a worry.
But my strategy now is really to be quiet and observe, and if my kid looks over at me, then I'm smiling and I'm giving him thumbs up, and I try to let the coaches that are out there, coach him.
Yeah,
I
that's
try to
huge
just
right
let him be coached. I'm paying for them to coach him. I'm paying for them to, direct and redirect and all that kind of stuff. So. I think as parents, sometimes we feel like we do know a lot, but when you pay someone to coach, just let your kid be coached and let them have their own experience. And then,
That's huge.
one
Coming
of
from the flip side of being a coach, and you've got parents over there trying to pull their kid to the side,
Absolutely.
and you, as a coach, you just want to pull your hair out.
That's my biggest frustration. And I would have a meeting with my parents and sit them down and says, when the kid comes on the field, he's mine for an hour.
Mhm.
Cheer him on,
Yeah.
root him on,
Yeah.
show him love. Don't coach. Don't tell him to swing at stuff. Don't tell him to step back. I'm telling them because, well, I'll be honest, I'm trying to win the game. if I want him to hold back, I give him a signal to hold back. I don't want him swinging.
Yeah.
It's all a strategy thing. But when he hears you swinging, he's going to listen to you before he listens to me because
Right.
you're the dad.
Right.
You know?
I've-
That's huge.
I've even tried to be more careful with the car ride home, because for a lot of kids, that's the worst part of the game for them, is the
Ooh.
car ride home.
I didn't
And you know
think
what
about
the car ride home's like, right? That's when you review every single play that happens, and you ask, as a parent, you ask a lot of leading questions that will kind of lead you to the game, so you can start talking to them about what they did and didn't do in the game.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So, but let's talk about your wife for just a second.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
Talk
that's
about it.
part of the car ride. Well, I'm just saying. So my wife never played organized sports entire life, because her older sister was phenomenal. Organized sports. She ran track, cheerlead. I think Christy played every sport and did really well at it.
Yes.
And then my wife was just kind of the middle child. Didn't get the piano lessons. Didn't get organized sports, and just kind of made it through life.
Yeah.
And then us as a team, right? She's got a husband who's like, I'm coaching 3 teams this season. Buck up, camper. We're gonna go for a ride, right?
Yeah.
And so my wife never does that. She's very rarely like that car ride home. We're talking about what we're gonna do the rest of the day, or she's worried about these kids eating. I'm like, these kids don't need to eat. These kids need to buck up. Maybe we need to spend another hour practicing is what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I still have that coach mentality. It's weird about my oldest son is he doesn't like to be coached by other people. And we haven't tried fencing.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't tried fencing yet. So you got me on that.
You may
But
like
with
that.
Aiden, we've tried all these sports, the same
Yeah.
thing, like just trying to get him into something that he loves. And it's really taught me that, that philosophy of, you know what, it's their journey, it's not mine, right?
But he only wants to be coached by you?
Oh, that's usually that's part of the contract. My kids enjoy negotiations, and Aiden is phenomenal at negotiations. And it's like, I can't beat him down that's a great life skill. Like literally, I've seen it right before me, and I just relish in it because negotiating is part of my job, right? And so he's picked up something along the way, and he'll probably be better than me at some day. Right now, I out-negotiate him, but you know, I think it's fair to say sometimes he does out-negotiate my wife, and has for many years. And teachers usually don't figure out that it was a negotiation from day one until they get into like the third semester, and they're like, I don't even know what happened. Like literally, when he was in fifth grade, the fifth grade teacher had a little conference, and she's like, I didn't figure out until the third semester that this whole time Aiden's been negotiating with me, and that everything was a negotiation, and that he's been out negotiating me from day one.
Wow.
And I'm like, what can I say? I said, and so like, you know what? Yeah, my son doesn't have the passion for organized sports, but he does play. Like, you know.
But only if you coach.
It's usually one of the qualifications is because, you know, I started in baseball, soccer, basketball. I didn't coach him in water polo, and water polo is grueling.
I wouldn't even know how to coach that.
Yeah,
Keep your head above water. There's my advice.
Yeah, so they do like 30 minutes of
Tread water
cardio,
for a long time.
and then you're
That's
treading
tough.
water, and we struggled with his diet, and we just started like a couple years ago figuring out his dietary needs, and now we're just trying to figure out his physical needs. Hey, bud,
Yeah.
I don't want you just to get in the gym to get in the gym. I want you to go do physical activity and have fun with it. Dude, it's much easier to be physically active if you're having fun than it is, hey, I need you to run 4 miles. Don't even come back through the door until you run 4 miles.
There must be something in my voice that my kids do not listen. I've coached them all, and when I tell them to do something, they will not listen to me. I will go to my assistant, will you tell him to do this? And they'll do it with no reservation whatsoever.
It's the tone of your voice.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
There must be a baritone that blocks through their hearing or something that.
I think it pierces them in the heart, and it's a mixture of fear and hatred all at the same time.
See, now you're getting
Do you
deep,
have,
man.
do you have all boys?
No, I have 7 children. I have 3 girls and 4 boys.
Is it different? The boys are different than the girls as far as like.
I've never coached the girls. The girls have done a lot of cheerleading and dance and some volleyball, and their mom has gotten involved.
He's just not
with that.
committed to his girls like I am.
No,
Me,
easy
I love
now.
girls sports.
I go to all of their stuff. I don't know that much about volleyball, but I have supported them throughout the way. I have one daughter. Flag football has gotten huge
Yeah.
amongst the girls in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Girl high school flag football, I had no idea. They have travel ball. I mean,
Wow.
it's huge in this town.
Yeah.
And my daughter got into it, and I was shocked. I was like, holy cow, she could be tougher than my boys. I mean, like she get out
She
there and
is.
she's aggressive, and she was rushed to the hospital. We were playing Cimarron, and there were some Hawaiian girls, and some of them are tough and big, and they laid her out.
Wow.
She was completely out, and I mean, concussion, the whole
Yeah.
9 yards. And we took her to the emergency room, and I mean, it was crazy. But immediately she gets out, she wanted to go back. I want to get back on the field. And with the concussion, with the Clark County School District, and my kids go to a charter school, so I even had some questions about your program towards charter schools, but they have very strict rules when it comes to youth sports and concussions. Concussion protocol is huge amongst little leagues, amongst all youth sports.
Yeah.
So once she had that concussion, the doctor put that down. They were very cautious, even for her cheerleading and stuff. And
Wow.
she's had a couple episodes that have come back. Just this year, she was in a stunt, a frame or something, holding the girl. She kind of came down funny. Her shoulder came in and hit my daughter in the head, and she thought no big deal. But then the headache started, and it started to kick in again.
Wow.
And some of the same symptoms that she had when she had her concussion when she was playing football came back when she was cheerleading. And so you really have to be careful. but it hurt her because she wanted to get out on the field. She was there with the team, she was on the sideline,
Yeah.
she was
Not
rooting
saying.
them on,
So,
but
yeah.
she's that type of personality, it's like, get me out there.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
tired of standing here, you know.
that's tough.
But in your program, does it bleed over to the charter schools?
Yeah, so our scholarships program, it really represents the community. It's individuals in the community, and I'm talking, I mean, you guys could establish one. Eric, I'm trying to get Eric. Come on, Eric.
So I was waiting for
We're
the
trying
podcast.
trying to get a rooftop realty one, but so
Donovan,
it's-
Donovan's waiting for
what?
the
Oh, you waiting
podcast?
for this one
Yeah,
to
of course.
announce it?
Yeah,
There
of
you
course.
All right, there we go.
So we're gonna, Rooftop Realty's gonna throw up a scholarship. I'm filling out the paperwork over the weekend. I'll have it to you by Tuesday.
Way to
So
go!
Look at
Way to
that.
go! All right, good job, Eric. Way to go.
thanks.
So individuals, businesses, we have principals, teachers, just all people in the community,
Nice.
creating scholarships for the seniors of the community. Okay, so last year we had 370 different scholarship opportunities. We awarded 638 kids, over 2.6 million. Most of that, or 100% of that 2.6 million, went to kids in Southern Nevada. Okay, so it's like a pool and a marketplace where kids come to us and they hunt and compete for scholarships. So our scholarships are open to, obviously the biggest district is CCSD. So most of our scholarships go to CCSD kids, but it is open to charter school kids and private school kids. So they're free to create accounts, and because they're individually decided and ran scholarships, they have to look at the description to determine if it's a good scholarship for them. It might say, this scholarship is open to CCSD, charter school, and private school. It might say this scholarship is open to just CCSD. It's just a lot of variety in there.
Gotcha.
So you just get comfortable with the search and look for scholarships that are good for you.
Where would they go to start this marketplace, or is there like a portal, or
So-
is it part of their school district portal? Where
Yeah, so you can go to the pef.org/scholarships, or you can go to the pef.org and click programs and then scholarships, and
We'll
it'll
put a
take you.
link. We'll put a
Yeah,
link on
it'll
the,
take
on
you
the
there.
site.
Set it up.
So only current high school seniors and current college students can apply to our scholarships. But I always encourage underclassmen to know about our program, because we've been around, or the program's been around. I'm just starting in it. I'm making that transition from Foothill last year. But since 94, 95, over $15 million
Wow.
has been awarded to students in Southern Nevada.
Nice.
And every year it just keeps on growing, with last year being the biggest year ever. So
Do they have to? I know. Well, and so this is. My wife actually has a huge specific question for you.
yeah.
Actually, she wanted me to ask on the podcast.
Uh-oh.
So my kids will be out of town for the last week of the semester, and my son's in middle school, and she met with the administration, and now my kid is an AB student, and good kid, E's in citizenship, participates, da 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 da, and either vice principal or something was like, well, if he's not here to take the exams on that last week, he's gonna get an F.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's gonna get an F on his report card,
Mm-hmm.
but he'll come back, take the test, and he can make up the grade on his transcript. Does that affect, does an 8th grade potentially affect his college or scholarship opportunities?
No, I'd say no. For our scholarships, you're gonna upload your high school transcript.
So it is the transcript that's the
And-
most important.
Yeah, and that's the high school transcript. So on the high school transcript, there will be though, maybe a computer credit from middle school, 6th grade.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the middle schools give computers in 6th grade. Depending on what classes he's in too, like if he's a kid that's really, really smart with math and he's taking Algebra 1 in middle school,
Yeah.
and geometry, some kids are taking geometry in middle school, that counts for high school credit. Also Spanish. So any of those classes that count for high school credit,
That's actually a
will.
sensitive subject with him, because in order to have those upper tier math classes, you actually had to start in 5th grade, and his friend is tiered up, and my son's competitive actually. He's I don't know if you remember this adage as a coach or as a player, but you know, you have practice players and then you have game day players, right?
Mhm.
And I was telling you that my son is not really into sports,
Mhm.
but when he is on a team,
Yeah.
and it is game day, he wants to win.
Yeah.
Like he's like, and I'm like, dude, where is this passion Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
right? Saturday where is game day, where
Yeah.
if you just just give me a little ounce of that Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
dude, we'll make you a much better Saturday player. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, it's not my passion. And I'm like, but his passion to win is. And so it even carries over a little bit to academics and the fact that one of his close friends is teared up and they didn't, for whatever reason, they're like, well, once you start on this path, this is the path you're on.
Yeah.
And so he's like in advanced math,
Right.
but his friend is actually teared up.
In algebra.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Okay.
And he's like,
So-
we asked last year, and they're like, oh, it's a closed program. You had to start that in 5th grade.
So if it doesn't matter, it won't matter if he's in advanced math, but if he's in algebra or geometry,
Yeah.
it will go on his transcript, and that will go on his high school transcript. But if the administration has stated that, you know, when he returns, he can then take the final,
Yeah.
and then he will receive a final grade. All he'll do is do a grade change.
Yeah.
And then the grade will change on the transcript. So then he'll be fine. He'll be
Perfect.
fine. That's typically the process anyway. You know, we have plenty of kids that will, you know, take trips and do things in high school, and we'd have to, you know, we try to accommodate them as best as we can. But bottom line, when grades are due, grades are due.
Yeah.
Did you do it? No? Okay, so then that's a 0.
Yeah.
And we gotta keep moving forward, and then we'll come back and we can do a grade change.
Okay.
You know, you take the test, you put the grade in, and then it will change. And it's really the semester grade that goes on the transcript, not a quarter grade or anything like that. It's a semester grade. So if if you've already, you know, talked to your administration about that, then I think you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
There's a spot that you can say, this is my parents' fault. My parents planned a vacation,
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right,
I have to
right.
go where my parents go, you know, they do.
Hey, the
feed
deal
me.
is the deal. Like,
Yeah.
hey, when it's a good deal, you gotta take advantage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's right.
It sounds like a wonderful program, and I love hearing programs like that, especially for Southern Nevada kids to be able to find opportunities to, you know, to go to school. It's a valuable thing. We've tried to instill that in my own home of how important school is, and even doing that school work, because the skill sets that you learn even in elementary and junior high bleed into your high school days. If you don't learn how to study, apply yourself,
Yeah.
and do those, regardless of what level math class you're in, you're not going to have those skill sets when you get to high school or even further on. It's that consistency of those attributes that bleed on even to your professional life, whatever you get
Yeah.
into.
exactly. And that's the whole point of school.
Yeah.
So,
So our scholarships. Let me talk more about our scholarships.
sure, let's roll it out.
So-
We're talking money. That's
So-
easy.
so-
This is
so-
free money.
Yeah.
Let's talk about free money. That's what
Exactly.
the title will be. Title is How to Get Free Money from Donovan.
That's right. Okay. So we have scholarships that are as small as $200 and as big as full ride and everything in between. So I know Eric's going to probably do a full ride scholarship with his program, right? We don't know yet.
We
We'll
don't
talk
know
about
yet.
it, Eric. But we have scholarships that are good for 1 year, renewable for 2 years, and renewable for 4 years. We have scholarships that are very specific, meaning you have to go to this specific school and major in this specific thing, you know, so like UNLV and business, or UNLV and marketing, or UNR, you know, the specific ones are typically
Probably won't be
local
getting a
schools.
UNR endorsement out of this office.
So we do have some specific scholarships, right?
For those at home, you can see I'm wearing the old logo. Sorry to offend, but
Aren't they gonna change it back? I heard they were changing it.
yeah, they did. They changed it back. Yeah,
Okay.
it's called common sense.
So we also have scholarships that are wide open, meaning you can go anywhere and major in anything, okay? Or, you know, you can go anywhere, but you have to major in this specific thing, okay? So there's a lot of variety in there. I like to, some of our donors like to have fun, and we have one scholarship called the There's Still Hope Scholarship for Smart Slackers. And he's just looking for the kid with a GPA below a 3.0. So you have to have a GPA below a 3.0 to qualify, and the highest ACT score wins.
Wow.
You know, so last year we had a kid that actually, you know, he was from a CCSD school, Northwest Career Tech. He got a 31 on his ACT, and
Wow.
below a 3.0 GPA. So a true slacker. And that's a scholarship for $1,000 this year. That's $1,000 scholarship, and it only takes about 5 minutes to apply.
My brother-in-law would have loved that scholarship. My brother-in-law almost flunked out of high school, and now has 2 master's degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that about Ben?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's one more
They
thing that I
barely-
like about him.
He barely passed through high school
Wow.
with a D average, and
See, that's exactly how I was in high school.
they almost kicked him out of school, I think twice or 3 times, and he hated his teachers hated him, like put him in positions where he wouldn't succeed on purpose, and that's what
Just a moment.
made him want to be a teacher, and
Sorry,
and now my
3 times negated in your music.
and then that's what made him become a teacher, and that's what made him pursue multiple masters. He was going to pursue a PhD as well, and I think a little bit is like, hey, to show my teachers that I was a smart slacker, you just didn't know it.
Yeah.
I like that scholarship. That's exactly how I was. I thought high school, you couldn't instill in me the seriousness of it. I mean, like but then I got out of school, and for some reason it clicked in my head, and then it got for reals. And then I started paying attention. I don't know why, but yeah, no, that sounds.
So there's a lot of variety in there. We have scholarships from NV Energy. MGM came to us last year, and they did $1 million scholarship for their employees' kids. So that was really cool. The impact was about 80 kids locally were able to receive $10,000 scholarships and compete in an even smaller pool. That scholarship was $2,500 per year, renewable for 4 years. So we're hoping we can get that one again. Cox has a scholarship with us. We have many donors throughout the valley. So it's a really great It's a really great program. We don't charge the students for anything. We don't charge the donors. And then there's a lot of services as a nonprofit that we do in between that. At the end of the cycle, which ends, our cycle opens every year October 1st. It closes January 31st, and then that's when the review process starts. And for most of our scholarships, they're reviewed by your transcript. So, and this is what I tell the younger people, because I'll have 9th graders and so on coming to my table and saying, "Oh, what's this about scholarships?" But this is where you compete with us. This is what the reviewers look at. They look at your transcript, so grades are important. They look at your letters of recommendation. So I always emphasize that your relationships are important on campus and off campus. They look at your resume, so staying busy is important, on campus and off campus. Some scholarships are needs-based and will require a financial letter. I would have been a great candidate for a needs-based scholarship, with my story and my upbringing. And some scholarships are needs-based and will require a statement.
Is there a redheaded stepchild scholarship?
Yeah.
Because that's what I should have qualified for. I had great grades, I had great, but I didn't tell my story.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that.
You would have been a good needs-based kid for sure.
I would, but my parents wouldn't fill out the financial forms.
Wow.
My mom never went to college.
Oh, really?
My stepdad, he got a GED. He never even graduated from high school, and so they never saw the value in me going to school. They're like, if you want to go to college,
It's on you.
it's on you, brother.
Right.
And so, and I look back at, so I've been working all through high school. On top of playing sports and being in extracurricular activities, I carried a part-time job, and then that's kind of been me my whole life.
So I got good news for you, Eric.
Good. Oh, I love
You
it.
ready? Okay, so something that you probably haven't heard of is the CCSD FAFSA nights for kids like you that that didn't have a lot of support and might not have a lot of direction. So what we're doing, and I could send you that as well, because there's still many FAFSA nights left. In fact, I believe there's one at Foothill. I'll be at Foothill on the 21st, which is Monday.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is that they're going to have people on Southern Nevada, I believe, will be there. There'll be colleges there where you can start the application to get into college online. So that's kind of a CCSD initiative, and it's in combination with college fairs. You know, so there'll be a room where there'll be a bunch of colleges, they'll be sitting and giving information, and then they have a lab, a computer lab, where you can actually go in and start applications and that sort of thing.
That's
So
phenomenal.
really great opportunity.
Yeah.
And in Henderson on the 21st. But
I'll
I'll send you the schedule. I'll send you the schedule.
I'm gonna get
So
the
you
word
can
out.
see, because we've been doing it for October pretty much. The whole month of October we started. So we're going to be going through the end of October, doing these FAFSA nights. And I'm at all of them.
So
Yeah, that's why I'm so tired.
So on your website, we'll have scheduling and everything.
Not for the FAFSA nights, so I'll have to send you there's a handout that's going around for
Okay.
that. That's not a part of the Public Ed Foundation, but we work together, with CCSD, to try to create opportunities in college access for kids. So that's more of a CCSD, collaboration. And coordinating with the counselors and CCSD and all that stuff. But it's a really good
Had you
opportunity.
ever heard of that?
No.
And see, his kids are old enough that he should be going to those.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So I'll send that over to you.
Because I don't want to pay for anything.
But
That's
Eric,
my problem.
yes.
let me finish with this. Okay.
Sorry.
So what happens? Eric's always getting me off track, man.
Right.
So what happens is, because you didn't hear the cool part, because I know you're gonna love this part. Okay. So especially being a donor. Needs-based scholarship or not, we have plenty of those. Not all of our scholarships are needs-based. I get that question a lot. Many of them are merit-based, meaning, we're talking GPA, we're talking more of a, what's your GPA, have a really good essay conversation versus you have to demonstrate a need. But there's plenty of essay questions. So for your scholarship, you'll have to, write an essay question. We'll have some suggestions and that sort of thing. On essay questions. So for every scholarship that students apply for, we notify them in the spring of their senior year, whether they're being awarded or not. Okay? If they're being awarded, we actually have a luncheon in the spring where we invite the person who created the scholarship, the donor,
Right.
to meet with the students, or meet with all of their scholarship recipients and have lunch together. They go on stage together, they take pictures, they get recognized. And it's a really, fun event. We do a scholarships luncheon every year where we bring all of that together at the end of the year. What typically happens after that is we reach out to the students and we kind of hold them accountable. We hold them accountable for the details of the scholarship. Whatever the scholarship said, they have to follow through on. So if it said you're going to UNLV and you're majoring in marketing, we require that they send their documents over stating that.
Do they have to
here's my
keep a certain grade up at UNLV?
That depends on the scholarship. If it's a
Okay.
renewable scholarship that says you need to maintain a certain, and we do have some that are like that, then they have to do that. Otherwise, if it's open, we have many scholarships that are just 1-year deals.
Oh,
You know?
got it.
But they send in their documents. We verify that it matches the details and the qualifications of the scholarship, and then we send the funds directly to the school.
Nice.
So that's the whole routine of it. So it's a really awesome program where the community has really come together to create, a nice pool of scholarships, a nice marketplace of scholarships where just our kids can go in and compete. I try to emphasize to the kids that it's still a competition. So you have to put your best work in there. But it's a competition against 50, 100, maybe even 200 kids, as opposed to 10,000.
Yeah.
Which, who knows how many people you're competing against when it comes to some of these regional or national scholarships programs.
See, I'm just not believing the hype of I think a lot of kids, you get a lot of kids that are involved in this. You get a lot of kids planning their futures and stuff like that. I mean, you hear on the news how horrible the school district is and it reflects down upon our kids. Our kids are too dumb or this and that. That's basically the bottom line of what they're talking about. And it's just not true.
Not true.
These kids are working hard. They get into programs like this, and I find it fascinating, but at the same time, it's good. And it's good for a father of 7 who, you know, if I had to pay out of my pocket for every one of my kids' college, I'm gonna be a homeless man by the time I'm done with it. I mean,
And we've got a good looking box for you, by the way.
I bet you do. Full market price.
Full market price.
But, you know, it helps out the parents also.
Yeah.
It helps out the household.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids are nervous and they're scared. They don't know what they're gonna do in the future or even how to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, and some don't wanna do the, you know, the military thing. Some end up doing that. And that's fine if that's the route that you wanna take, but there's many other ways you can do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think unfortunately we have a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of people out there, I think in general, that, you know, focus on the wrong things. You know, I think, you know, your focus is important. If you choose to focus on negatives, then you're gonna find negatives in any, you know, situation.
Yes.
You really can. You can find negatives in any situation. And if you choose to focus on the positives and just stay upbeat, then that's what you'll find. You know, so there's a lot of positives, I think, going on with our kids in our community and the colleges that they're going to. I mean, for crying out loud, we had kids at Foothill last year that got into, you know, MIT and UCLA, and you know, I know at the foundation we're sending checks to Harvard and Stanford. You know, so these are kids coming from the Clark County School District. You know?
Yeah, that's
and I don't know,
phenomenal.
and
Those
I
are
don't
great
know,
stories.
I don't know if you know the percentage or the chances of getting into a school like UCLA or MIT, but it's probably less than, you know, 3 or 4% of the applicants actually get in.
You got
know?
kids from all over the nation trying to get into those things.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good things happening, and you know, if you choose to focus on the positives, you'll find a lot of positives. But yeah, I think there's negatives everywhere. You know.
See, and that's something Eric and I have talked on a podcast before this, is how exciting this valley is right now. I mean, I feel like it is an exciting time. You've been here a long time. This is an exciting time to be here in this valley. You know, all these opportunities. I wish these opportunities were around when I was younger, going to school at basic high.
And that's part of like having Donovan here. Is like we have, so Donovan's talking about, he's from Queens, then California, and now he's been here for 20 plus years. Now he's a pillar of the community, and he laughs when I say that, but we're in a little way, we're all pillars of the community.
Absolutely.
And I'm just trying to show a little spotlight on probably one of the best looking ones, you know. And
Thank you, Eric.
so,
But you know, like you said earlier, you know, you talk about your dad. I don't think you have to be a dad to be a dad, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You don't have to be that kid's father. You know, I mean, doing programs like this, helping out, coaching, all of these pillar type behaviors, you know, makes it a great community.
Yeah.
it does.
And I mean, I think we have some stuff to be proud of too, with regards to, you know, the opportunities here, because I met a family from where are they from? They're from Utah the other night. They were so excited when they saw scholarships, and you know, I started talking to them about it, and I said, yeah, and you know,
Do we
all
have
of
to
these
call
go
it
to
scholarships?
Southern Nevada kids.
Or is this,
Right?
is this a free money check, or do we have to call it scholarships?
You can't call it free money.
I like that title a lot better. I think it would motivate people a little bit more if they, instead of calling it scholarship, like it's some high mountain, like, because in some people's minds, like, oh, my kid is not eligible for a scholarship, or my kid's not good enough. And I think a lot of kids feel that way. They're like, oh, I'm not good enough. Instead of like, dude, there's free money laying around. Did you try to grab it?
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to change the name. We're not going to change the name, Eric. Scholarships.
Scholarship.
New campaign. Free
But I do-
money,
but I do-
free money certificates.
I do try to give
You
out.
could run with Bernie, and you guys can take over the world.
That's a different certificate.
But anyways, man,
Yeah.
good information.
Donovan, it was great. I want to have you back. Once again, for those that are listening, please subscribe. Thank you to Rooftop Realty for opening your offices and letting us be in here and use your equipment. Donovan, thank you for coming in from the Public Education
Foundation.
Foundation.
And we're gonna put the links and everything in the bios on Instagram and also on iTunes and all that. I'm gonna hook all that up so everyone will be able to hit it up and check the website out. And
Going to be iTunes famous.
Yeah.
iTunes famous.
we're trying, man.
You didn't let me finish my last point. Can I finish my last point? Jeez.
Okay.
No. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that everyone also knew about the Nevada Promise opportunity, which is not part of the Public Ed Foundation, where you can get up to 3 years of tuition-free schooling at CSN, College of Great Basin, or Truckee Meadow. I wanted to make sure that everyone, and you can, these are things you can Google.
Yeah.
Okay, Google Nevada Promise, Google Millennium Scholarship. Okay, how many communities have a Millennium Scholarship where just by having good grades and a strong ACT score, you can have $10,000?
I wish.
So-
That was just if you guys want to date me. That Millennium Scholarship came after
You?
I graduated.
Oh man. But so then after those two things, then you're on the hunt and you're looking for scholarships, and we'd be a great place for you to hunt.
Fabulous.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
It's my first podcast. I usually don't do podcasts or anything like
Now
that.
you love it.
How did I do?
Oh, he loves a microphone.
yeah.
See that microphone? He loves a microphone.
Good. It's awesome. It's awesome. It was wonderful meeting you and hearing your story, and it's very inspiring. Very inspiring. So,
Like, you can like us on, throw a little subscribe down, and we'll get the word out, Donovan. And
So I'll be
thanks for
iTunes. I'm gonna be iTunes famous now.
iTunes
yeah,
famous.
you'll be out there. You'll be out
I
there.
haven't been on there.
Okay.
Right on. Hey, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you later.
All right.
Thank you.
Whew, that's good.
Got me sweating. Was it? Did I do okay?
That was great. Didn't you love it? You loved it.
Podcast? I don't know, man. We'll see.
See how much humility I have to deal with all the time?
I don't know. We'll see. Never done that before. I'm not.